Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Time now for the news review. I'll be joined shortly by Samuel Kojo, my colleague here at the Multimedia Group. But let's just let you know that this news review is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. You can locate us in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronumabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Isiama Enzima. You can also reach us on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, it's only the beginning of the news review, and Samuel Kojo, my colleague, joins me for the review. Sam, a very good morning to you. You would have to unmute. I see you are chilling with the big boys. You would have to unmute, Kojo.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Okay. Now see,
you're missing me in the studio because when you started, I saw that you weren't so smiley, and I was like, "Oh, Charlie, I should have been in the studio." But anyway, I'm far away from you, but I'm with you.
You're with me, in the flesh or in the spirit. Anyway, it's been quite an interesting week. We've had the Sona, we had the Ashaiman incidents before. We've had the talk continue about a shortage of vaccines. What story has been dominant for you? Which one has had that recall effect on you in the course of this week?
I think it's straight away it's Ashaiman.
Okay.
Ashaiman because there is a mother and a father who have just 2 kids. The oldest amongst the two, who just got into the army and was on the way to becoming the breadwinner of this family.
Yeah.
His life was just taken away from him. Mm-hmm. And I say that listening to stories about his death brings us to a conversation we need to have about how our society is becoming now. In those days, when you needed help, no matter what time it was, right, you could get someone to lend you a helping hand. Mm. But today, because of how society has degenerated, nobody is willing to offer to anybody. Yeah. Because of how society has become. So this boy's death needs to remind us that we need to have that big conversation about our society and how it is time for us to revisit how the society was in those days. Right. Because if we don't take care and we allow this to fester, I'm telling you, we'll lose very innocent souls that could become, very prominent for this country. Because this boy, if you listen to all the stories about him, was on the way to becoming somebody very, very prominent in the army. Right. They tell us he's a very good trumpeter. People say one of his friends told us yesterday that he eats, sleeps, and does everything trumpet. So, and then again, the fact that his death caused the army to go into that community and even subject innocent people to that, you would want to describe as heinous punishment, because someone lying in a gutter, and one man told me in Ashaiman that he drank the water running through the gutter.
I think those is it Tulaku? We heard from the leader as well make mention of the fact that, listen, they hadn't just ended in the Ashaiman area, that there's an abattoir, around the abattoir, and they had made people drink, after the carcasses are washed and all of that, including excrement in there, and they made people drink that. So I agree with you. There are two tragic situations we have to deal with. One, the killing of officers, and any life and every life counts. It doesn't matter whether the person is in uniform or not in uniform. We saw what happened to Major Mahama Denchambwase, that incident, and we condemned it roundly. Now we've seen this. I do not know whether somehow, because of how those clothed with authority deal with people, maybe that fear is getting lost, or maybe people are beginning to feel, you know what, these people in the services are not worth that respect. I don't know what is happening to our society, but it's something we must curb. It's something we must reinforce in the minds of people. Ordinarily, when you see a person in uniform, no matter who you are, you should respect what they do. We have heard stories of whether this could have been personal or whether it could have been a robbery. I will not wade into that. But the other angle of it, before you come in, Kojo, is that we really also have to stem the tide of officers, those clothed with the state's power, abusing that power. What we saw in Ashaiman and its environs are condemnable to. I mean, where in the world do you hear the military doing this? Apart from in some, banana republics or authoritarian states. Where? This doesn't happen.
It's serious. Ben, I would want to say two things. That one, someone told me within this week that it looks like men in uniform are becoming very common in town these days. And probably it's something we've not averted our minds to. He said those days it was rare for you to come across a man in uniform on the street of Ghana. But today, they are all around us. Maybe because the community, the population.
When you speak of man in uniform, are you referring specifically to our soldiers? Or the military?
The military, I should be specific, the military. That those days, they were scarce. But today, they are all around us. Maybe because we have a lot of our own brothers and friends getting into the army, and that's why it is like that. Two, now I spoke to the mother, and I asked her whether she's aware that, because we've heard the son went to that Taifa area to visit a woman, and she said she didn't know of that woman, but a friend to the boy, I mean his only friend in Ashaiman, told her that, he knows that the friend has a lady in that area, and I mean, he even led the police to the house of this lady. So we can rule out a robbery.
We have seen some images online, supposedly, purportedly, of the lady. We cannot confirm that. So yes, but
So we can rule out any incident of robbery and focus on going to a girlfriend and probably something happening as a result of that.
Well, we don't know for a fact that it was his girlfriend. I mean, so
we can probably say that he went to see a lady because the mother confirmed that the friend, So yeah, the thing is, he said that he was coming to the mother because he was not well, and ended up going to that area before coming home. But then this happened. Yeah, it's just a sad incident, and anytime I think about it, and the mother's image comes to mind. I feel that pain, because to lose your firstborn, and the secondborn will probably be between 9 and 12.
Yeah.
So
and I listened to the family, Kojo. They were talking about how they had invested in his education. He was such a light in the family. They had so many high expectations of him. They wanted him to excel so that he would be able to help the family and his siblings specifically. And now this has happened.
It's sad. But I want us to look at, to talk about two things, like you said, how the military react or responds to these issues.
We seem to have a little challenge with Kojo Brace's connection, but we're looking at this issue very broadly, holistically, from both ends. The savage killing, savage, brutal, and whoever did that, I pray they get justice, meted out to them. But at the same time, we cannot have our military acting like they did. I mean, they didn't act like the professionals we know them to be. We know they're very professional, very disciplined. But in that instance, what I saw, they appeared to be goons to me. And I say that, I use that very carefully, because you cannot do what they went out there and did. Where was the targeting? Where was the intelligence? You go and round up over 100 people and do this to them, elderly people, young people, and somehow you feel it is justified brutalizing people who may probably have no idea what this is all about. Imagine waking up, coming out of your room, getting accosted, and being flogged like an animal. Not even animals deserve that. Kojo, I hear you're back on the connection.
And you see, some of them, the soldiers even knocked on their doors, and when they got out, they were picked and asked to sleep on the floor. So the whole thing and how it went about, I think the military could have done better, because I know that they have the military intelligence unit also. They could have used them to then get a specific area to operate in, but to subject everybody to that treatment, that one, I think there's something we can do.
Let's get into some of those stories, and prominent. The Daily Graphic is where we're starting. Killed soldier laid to rest. Ashaiman residents demand justice. It's been a sad start to the year, hasn't it? From Christian Achu, may his soul rest in peace. Now, this soldier as well, and the remains of the late Private Imoro Sheriff were carried for burial at the military cemetery at Burma camp. There's also law enforcement to doorstep. Police create 7 new regions. I'll be taking a look at that story. GES applauds junior graphic for essay competition, and debate on new constitutional instrument. CDD Ghana suggests use of guarantor system. I'll take those 2 stories and then maybe look at some of the international ones. Law enforcement to doorstep. Police create 7 new regions, and the police administration has created 7 additional police regional commands to ensure effective and efficient policing throughout the country. The new regions are in the Ashanti and the Eastern regions, which have 2 each, and the Western, Central, and Volta regions, each of which has an additional regional police command. Now, the 7 new police regions bring to 25 the number of police national administrative regions. All the new regions are working effectively. Let's also take a look at that story on page 18 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. And the Center for Democratic Development Ghana has called on the Electoral Commission to allow holders of the Ghana card to vouch for the identity and guarantee the registration of 3 other prospective voters. The prospective voters who may be wielding other legal identification documents apart from the Ghana card, the CDD Ghana said, must be vouched for under penalty of perjury. The Civil Society on Governance has made the suggestion on the back of the proposed constitutional instrument, that is the CI of the Electoral Commission, seeking to make the Ghana card the sole identification document for continuous voter registration. And the current constitutional instrument 126 allows for a guarantor to guarantee for up to 5 people. This could be reduced to 3, according to the CDD Ghana. And there's also this one. Let me just add it, Kojo. Operation Save Democracy. NDC directs MPs to stay in Parliament. That story is on page 19. And the NDC has directed its members of Parliament to ensure they attend all parliamentary sittings and not to embark on any travel that will affect their attendance in Parliament. This directive, the party said, was in solidarity with its caucus in Parliament to fight against what the party termed as, quote, the obnoxious constitutional instrument the Electoral Commission is seeking to lay before Parliament. So those 2 stories, the CDD Ghana saying, allow the guarantor system, but cut down from the CI 126 allowance of 5 to 3. The NDC directing its MPs to be frequent in Parliament to counter that move. We all know Sarah Adjo is also not in town, so that would hobble the numbers of the majority in Parliament, and the creation of 7 new regions by the police. Any thoughts, Kojo?
Yeah, let's start from the police angle. Yeah, it's good we are creating new regions, but I'm looking at the effectiveness of it. You know how we now even struggle to get accurate information from the police? That when things happen, you need to call Accra, the before you are giving the information that you need.
Right.
So we can create regions, but I think the attention or the focus should be on effective policing. How are we ensuring that all these creations that we are bringing on board will lead to that very effective policing that we all want to see? So, yeah, we can create it. I want to see how that really improves the police system and how they relate to the public. I hope that the IGP would look at that particular directive that now regional commanders and their PROs can't even speak to the media unless Accra. So, yeah, good that we have created it, but I want to see how this effectively changes how we do things in this country. When it comes to the guarantor system, look, the other time we were talking about the Ghana card and how it could be used for blah, blah, blah. let's have a roundtable discussion and agree on the way forward. We don't have enough time. We have this year, to prepare. Next year is election year. So the more we delay on how to conduct the registration process, I mean, the more or the likely it becomes that we would have a very rough, election, and we don't want it. Ghana has become the beacon of hope when it comes to democracy for the rest of Africa, and so we should ensure that we're doing this as early as possible to then agree or disagree whether we're using the Ghana card as the only card, or if we are not, like CDD is saying, we agree on the number that any holder of the Ghana card can, vouch for people to then register. I think the earlier we agree on this, the better for all of us. The more we talk about, let's do this, we are not agreeing, we are moving, it doesn't help. Time is not on our side. Maybe people think that we have the whole of this year and next year to prepare. We don't. We have only this year to prepare. And look, we have election. We have local level elections coming up there later this year. So the earlier we do this, the better for all of us. When it comes to NDC asking its members to stay in Parliament, I think that it's a good call. They want to ensure that the right things are done. I hope that we can agree to disagree to make sure we move ahead. I know there are some ministers designate that they have to approve. Is it because of that? If not, let's just agree to disagree on we don't have time,
Well, they also, I roped in that bit because they were also talking about the CI to be laid before Parliament, and they also want to be, have their say. They want to be there in their numbers to counter and anything that would be untoward. They've been against, using this, especially when they cannot guarantee. There's no guarantee that everybody who would want to secure the Ghana card can have access to it and then move on to use that as the registration document for the election.
It's because they don't want things to go where they want to ensure that things are done the way they have to be done.
Right.
And that's why, if they have to stay in Parliament and do the parliamentary duties, that's why we voted for them. We voted for them to be in Parliament to ensure that things are done the right way. So this is a good call.
Right.
They have to ensure that it's effectively implemented. And then we can, but I don't want us to be dragging issues that we can all come to a compromise on.
Right.
Let's ensure that we fast-track things in Parliament to ensure this country, the government is able to run, we have a smooth running, and then we can achieve the goals that we all want to achieve. So that's it.
Right, right. Let's look at these two. I'm not going to get into the details, but on the international front, INEC postpones election for new state governors, and UN extends sanctions against Sudan. On the sporting page, 31, Painto Ashimeru return for AFCON test as Houghton names 25-man squad. And some of your favorite players are in there, but I'll tell you one person who isn't in there. Baba Rahman is not in that fray. Blood Bank falls short on annual requirement. That's on the back page of the paper. Were you reacting, Kojo?
To the collapse. I mean, we've all said that Baba Rahman has not showed us enough evidence to be in this squad.
Right.
So if today comes and says, well, I'm not picking him, I'm not sure anybody have qualms with it. The only person I was looking forward to seeing was Jeffrey Schlupp. He's proving...
Oh, right. Right.
Into this. I don't know whether he refused to come because of what we did to him during the World Cup.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, we don't know for a fact, but who knows? Who knows his reasons? Yeah. Maybe if he tells us, then we'll get to know.
I'm thinking that he probably might have called him and he said, no, I need time to overcome what happened to me during the World Cup, because every player's dream is to play for the country at the World Cup stage. Now, when we got there, we told this guy that, oh, we have not seen enough of you, and we didn't pick him. So I'm thinking that he still has some pains in him. But let's see. This is a good squad. Let's see how they can gel together and give us the results that we need.
I just got a message from someone I know who says he was a victim of the incident in Ashaiman, but he doesn't want me to give the details because if I do, it would be clear that he was the one. But maybe when you get into the studio, Kojo, I will show you what he sent me. It is indeed sad. It is sad how things happen sometimes. This person, maybe I'll explain further. I don't want to say anything that will expose him, but it is sad because guess what? It could happen to anybody. I mean, just imagine it. Just imagine you, Kojo, you went to pay a visit to some family members somewhere in Ashaiman. And I've actually done that before and slept over. So imagine something of the sort happens. And maybe they come and, you know, when these things are happening, it doesn't even matter who you are. But if they didn't realize that, oh, this is Samuel Kojo Brace, and they brutalize you, it could happen to anybody. It could happen to a member of parliament even, because probably they wouldn't know that this is the member of parliament. You remember when Sam George was slapped? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember that incident? The guy supposedly didn't know, though some said he knew. But that is exactly what could happen. So the system must work so that people are not targeted unfairly like this, because it could happen to anybody. And in that moment, no one will care who the heck you are. You know, it's really sad. It's really sad. Really sad. But let's look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Former minister, were you going to say something, Kojo? Please go ahead.
I spoke to one man who was really hurt by what they did to him. And he said he could never forgive the people for what they did to him. He was shocked. And he just, look, there are things he said that I can't say here. But the man was really peeved at what happened to him. And I think that this could be a lesson to the army, that next time, that's not how to approach an issue if you want to find, you know, a culprit of a crime. That's not. Amnesty International have even condemned this. And they say that the military usurped the power or the powers of the police service. But what they did was to have been left to the Ghana Police Service to do, not to the army.
Let's wrap with these stories very quickly. The Ghanaian Times, former minister jailed over land, goes in 7 days for contempt, and that is Dr. Mustafa Ahmed. He has been my member of parliament before. I'll give you a bit of detail on that story. The other stories in here we've already looked at, but Geological Survey Authority requires $200 million investment to transmit real-time seismic data on earthquake. Let's take this very seriously. $200 million needed, they say. But if you pay attention to the disaster in Turkey, in Syria, in other places in recent times, and you look at our fault lines from the McCarthy Hill area going, and the fact that, I mean, earthquakes have happened in this country before. Let's not wait, because we don't have the logistics, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the know-how. I mean, if we have to invest something to forestall any such, you know, happenings, I think we should do it now. Prevention, as they say, better than cure. But the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Dr. Mustafa Ahmed, I beg your pardon, has been sentenced to 7 days imprisonment by the Accra High Court Financial and Economic Crime Division 2 for contempt of court. On June 12, 2019, the court in a judgment granted perpetual injunction restraining the former minister, then the defendant, from trespassing on land, but he violated the order. The court also fined him 12,000 Ghana cedis or in default to serve 30 days in prison. That is the story there. The Daily Guide also reflects other stories we've seen. The Finder, I'll just highlight this, 288,000 apply for U-Start. Full-scale execution targets 1 million jobs in 3 years. Any quick reactions? And we are gone, Kojo.
Yeah, I think the U-Start thing is good for me. You know how entrepreneurial I am. So when I see programs that support young people to give birth to their ideas, I mean, I love it. I am only looking at or cautioning against implementation. I think that in this country, our major problem has to do with implementation. Look at how we implemented a 1D1F policy. Very solid policy, but our challenge has to do with how we implemented it. And that's why we are where we are today. That companies are not able, you know, to operate because the monies are not forthcoming.
Right.
So yes, it's good that people are buying. Let's see how we implement it to ensure that we will actualize the goal, the intent of this particular policy. You know, I'll be happy to see how young people will be creating millions of jobs for millions of Ghanaian youth. And then we can really reap the entire benefit of this policy. So it's a good thing. Let's look at how we can implement it, not the way we implemented the 1D1F policy. That is a symbolic way we did. But I hope that we learn lessons from that, and we can implement this very, very well, so we can really reap the benefits.
Kojo, I'll leave you with the title of my blunt thoughts for today, right before we get into prime take. Steering Ghana's ship aground. Chaos in high places. Steering Ghana's ship aground. Chaos in high places. I'll tell you what, I'll definitely be talking about the incident in Ashaiman and brutalities, similar brutalities in the past. I'll also be looking at the economy. What President Akufo-Addo, well, before he became president, some things he said about the economy then, and some of what he said in the SONA now, and whether there is a disconnect. Are you curious?
Yeah.
Stay. Catch me later on that one. But that is Samuel Kojo Brace, my colleague who joined me here for the news review. Right before we get into prime take, though, let me just remind you once more, we're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. That is Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. You can locate us in Accra Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzema. I'm sure you'd like to reach out to us. Just call us on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, thank you for staying, but up next, we serve you sports, and it is prime take with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi as he engages the CEO of the National Youth Authority, Pius Enam Hajide, right after the break. Do stay.